Hey, it's Shabes, and welcome to another edition of AniTube Digest, where we go over the best and not so best anime YouTube videos to come out this week, from the 12th of April to the 19th of April. No videos that are not good this week, boys and girls. That's right, and non-binary pals. I'm sorry. I was like, oh, if I say boys, because I wanted, kind of a camaraderie, like lads, but I'm like, but girls watch this program too. But then I'm like, but non-binary people probably watch this show too. That was very awkward. There's no good. It's not good this week. A couple of requests though. The first one's from Mrcheese. Wanted me to talk about this one from Derek Lieu, supercut unique anime openings, and this is I think it's the same guy who way back. And this is like from 2011. This video. I imagine it's the same guy who made those supercuts of the anime OPs of everyone's walking and everyone's turning their head and other things like that. And, I do like those very much. But this was kind of an abstract version because this is pretty much a mashup of all the very distinctive, specific things that anime OPs do that are very distinctive to those OPs, I guess. And, it's a lot of, once it gets a little bit into the video, you start to see the repetition of things like, oh, yep, there's that show again. You feel like you've kind of capped the limit of like, oh, this is the pool of shows they're pulling from, basically. Like they keep showing multiple ones from Tatami Galaxy, multiple ones from Paranoia Agent. What were some other ones? Big O was another one in there. There's a lot of them, but it's like, I don't know, there's parts of me that are like, I think every OP has something very distinctive about it that you could show off as something unique, but then also gets packed with all these other cliches, I suppose, of running or turning your head and stuff like that. The tropes, I guess. But it's like, those use of those tropes are they're tropes for a reason. You know what I mean? It's like I guess it was sort of a celebration, but I always saw those mashups as sort of like, well, they're all the same, and I'm a little weary of those sorts of opinions, right? Because generalizations are very common in this particular field, I guess. So I always got kind of like uneasy about that personally. But I do like the selection here. I do like the song choice from Paprika, like the kind of the opening theme to Paprika. And it's interesting to see from 2011, like the pool of shows that they're pulling from, right? Where it's like, wow, this is like before SAO and before Attack on Titan, and a lot of the literally an entire decade of anime pretty much is missing here. I mean, it's from 2011, so technically it's a little bit into the new decade, but yeah, I don't know. But unfortunately, I don't have too much else to say. It is what it is. But yeah, it's something I like about it. It's a very simple supercut, but I don't know, you don't see that kind of thing too often nowadays either, which is interesting. Yeah, and the other request is from Boo. He wanted me to talk about Watch Gundam from Osoweeb. Familiar with Osoweeb, at least as a commenter. But I have to look at their channel again, because I recognized at least the yeah, it seems to be a lot of the kind of oh yeah, they've been starting to do some kind of bigger stuff like an Azuken video and other things like that. That's good. But yeah, Boom wanted me to talk about something they made 10 months ago, which is a weirdly abstract video. It sort of like mashes a bunch of Gundam footage together, and it feels very cerebral and weird and trippy. I imagine if this was something like from the 90s and people kind of stumbled across it, it would have gotten people very interested in what Gundam. If they had never had any experience with Gundam, I think there would be something about it that's like, whoa, what's this weird kind of fucked up? Like, whoa, There's this sound of like this mystique to it that Osoweeb contributes here, and there's a lot of like the flashing these messages of what is a new type and war is bad and other things like that, and why are we fighting and things. I like that it slowly transitioned from using just 79 footage to later entries like F91 and Counterattack and other things like that. It made it feel like a very vast, deep kind of franchise, even though it's only a fraction of of the whole franchise, which is interesting. But it was just seemed really interesting and weird. I really liked the music choices too, and I was sad that Osoweeb doesn't link what they are in the description, because the piano piece in the second half in particular was really moving. Actually, it was just really like, it kind of got it. It first deals with this kind of like, it doesn't really use Gundam. I guess it probably does, but it's like it's not like, that's obviously the Gundam OP or something like that. It's very chaotic kind of sounding, like intense music for like the first half, and then it gets really serene with like this piano thing, and then the editing gets kind of less crazy, and it's kind of showing like these vast emptiness of space kind of thing. And I'm like, this is really kind of cool, showing the two sides of Gundam being like very chaotic. What do we do? Why are we fighting? And high octane, high emotions, but also a lot of the silent, quiet, contemplative moments. Maybe perhaps more introspective feelings. I don't know. It gave a lot of really interesting intrigue, which is it feels very underground, I guess, and it's not something you'd expect out of from a franchise that like is as popular and ubiquitous as Gundam, right? There's someone giving it this sort of indie, weird psychedelic kind of treatment is kind of cool. So I really dug this video, actually. Thank you for recommending me it, and good job making it, Osoweeb. Really nice. Okay, and now for some videos that I thought were decent. And the first was from Seaweed Ambassador. Wanted me. I'm sorry. I was in the request mode. I'm sorry. Seaweed Ambassador put out a video called Bear Candy, and John's making a Mysterious Girlfriend X AMV. And, I was not expecting this, as I don't expect pretty much anything from John's channel these days. It's really great. He's really doing a lot of different stuff, and kind of whatever he likes making, and kind of having fun with it, as I would hope, right? As one would expect. But yeah, he's doing even better with these AMVs, I think. I forget the music choice. I've seen like a lot of videos this week. What was the music choice again? Oh, I like that part. Yeah, it was like kind of a more modernish song, played to this like show from 10 years ago kind of deal. It was interesting. There's a lot of like technical things going on. Nothing like too like fancy or nothing, but like kind of cool stuff, and intrigue about the series, I think. That doesn't really give a lot away, but really gives you like kind of the feel of what it's like watching this show, and kind of a weird, the unusual but sort of romantic oddity of it, I guess. But it was a good feeling, and I really like it. I don't know if it's teasing to it. Yeah, this is, I guess, the expectations that he set for himself, and maybe I'm building it out of nothing. But I always feel like now that whenever John's making an AMV, I have to like, it's like, oh, is he gonna have an analysis video attached to it? It's not necessarily the case. I shouldn't have those expectations, but I do have those. I do kind of think about it. I'm like, oh, is a Mysterious Girlfriend X video coming? Nah, I shouldn't necessarily think those things, but can't help but think that after what he did with Ocean Waves. But I'm just saying. It was interesting. I like the AMV a good deal. It was a lot cool. I like the kind of the photo effects with the filter with the camera inside of it, I guess. I don't know. Things like that. I don't know if experimental is the right word, as it is like, it felt a little fan cammy as well. But it was nice, and it didn't, like a lot of John's AMVs, they're not very, it's not like holistic. It's not like a big thing. It's only like it's literally less than 2 minutes. So that's certainly something I should learn. Brevity. It's the soul of wit, I suppose. Anyway, I've always admired that. Good AMV. I liked it. I got weird feelings with this TeamFourStar video, but ultimately I couldn't really bring myself to dislike it. My Hero Academia Season 1 in 5 minutes. Taking the have they done this before? This specific one before? Because obviously, like, Giga kind of popularized it, but I don't know if TeamFourStar specifically has done this sort of thing before. They might have. I'm looking. But and yeah, they did this, and they did this with Demon Slayer. Cool. But the kind of the weird thing with this one was just like all the different cuts, and I saw Kaiser tweeting about the work that he did in here. To like a lot of these shots are kind of original. They're like he's taking pieces from other scenes and putting them together, and some of them you can tell. Like some of them you can tell there's like a puppet tool like motion thing going on. That's like that's not from the anime, or whatever. I don't know. But it's just the amount of work to kind of make some of these shots very seamless is impressive, which is cool. I think my favorite part was the rollout of all the students and little sly commentaries with each of them. I thought that was very creative and sharp of them. It felt very traditional to their style, which is always very like gotcha punches, like a lot of instantly kind of goofs, I guess. But it's just strange to see them going back to this, where it's like, I thought that you had moved on from, you're trying to do stuff different and trying to make original content. It's just strange to kind of doing both of them, I guess. I don't know. I always had kind of weird feelings. It was like, I felt like you kind of moved on and you're going to start doing original things and be more, like a real production kind of studio. But I guess it's kind of nice as a throwback, sort of every so often. But that's always just something that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I was just like, why are you going back to this? It's like, then if you're going back to this, why did you leave in the first place? It's like, just if you're good at this thing and you like doing it, just keep doing it. If you do have your reasons for moving on from Dragon Ball the way you did, then stick to it. I don't know. This sort of feels like to me that they're kind of falling back on the things that they like doing, and there's nothing wrong with that. But then it kind of contradicts to me in my head as a viewer. It's like, well, what is this other stuff you're making then? Like, why? I don't know. It just kind of had some weird feelings to me personally, but it's, technically, interestingly made. I did laugh at it a couple of times. It's not my thing generally, because it's kind of gimmicky content, and it's dealing with a series I don't really care that much for personally. So of course I'm going to be kind of lukewarm on it, but I can respect the effort and talent into this particular video. I thought there was something worth bringing up, but I couldn't bring myself to bring it like I'm not good or something. Yeah. So this is like just kind of crazy, right? So it's another Moist Critical video. Penguin Zero, Mark, I think is it, I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm not I've watched a decent amount of his videos though. He's always very interesting on camera, even though he doesn't do a whole lot. He really just talks, and it just shows with the kind of audience that YouTube has. And I mean, it's the same thing here, right? Like, at least 1,000 people are willing to tune into Digest, which is cool. But this video, this is why I don't trust anyone. You have no idea, of course, which is usually the case with Moist Critical's videos. This is an episodic review of Yu-Gi-Oh, like the Duel Masters season, not season 0, but like the first, just regular old Yu-Gi-Oh, like episode 3, and he just kind of discusses the plot and kind of what happens and riffs on it a little bit, and that's it. And so I just wanted to bring this up of just like, wow, and this is obviously, does very crazy successful. It's just really interesting seeing him do this occasionally. I don't know if he does this really often with other media, but like the fact he's doing this with anime is interesting, and keeping it in his, he does a lot of different stuff, which is cool. I like the variety on his channel. But it's just cool that someone that's this big and prevalent in the space of YouTube in general is making anime content like this. It's just kind of interesting. There's not much else to it. It's really just an episodic review of Yu-Gi-Oh! And I don't know. The brevity of it was also nice. So it's like, it's cool with him when he's able to just kind of throw out a video idea, and he just kind of, it's a one and done. This video probably took him like an hour or something. And that's not a bad thing. I like videos that kind of have a quick production time if they can really, if they're good and people are interested, then great. I just think that's interesting, and it's a lot of us don't. A lot of us end up getting wired to like, we get attached to videos, and we spend a lot of time on videos and things like that. And so when that finishes, we're still in that mindset that we have to chew on to the next big thing. So like this idea of just like, no, I'm just going to talk about an episode of Yu-Gi-Oh! I liked, it's encouraging to me, at least. As a content creator, it's like, I could just do that, and maybe not, maybe it won't be as successful because he obviously has 7 million subscribers that are active. He's a very popular creator at the moment. So of course it's going to get views no matter. It's also especially the way he frames this as completely not a Yu-Gi-Oh review, like at all. You have no idea. The reason he calls it this is because it's the episode where like Weevil tosses the cards of Exodia into the off the boat or whatever, like things like that, right? It's like, it's just baffling to me. It was like, oh wow, this is a video that could exist. Anyway, something to talk about. It's interesting. Okay, I'm finally going to talk about a video from Geek Eire. I've never figured out how to pronounce that. Anyway, so like he's made videos a couple times, and I've never really wanted to cover him on Digest as much because it does seem like he's still feeling his way into making content, and it's hard for me to give him the platform when it wasn't a technically good video or something like that, right? He's still like improving and getting better, and I always felt like apprehensive of covering his stuff. But like this was sort of something that was like, okay, let's actually see what he's, if it's not terrible, not like his other videos are terrible in any way. I think his content has never been bad. It's always just been his technical way of presenting it has always had kind of weird things about it. And this one has weird things about it too. This is about Aoi Bungaku, Alienation, and Mist Classic, and the majority of the video is him on camera as one take. So there's a lot of like thinking of the thing he's going to say. You know what I mean? That was intentional. Even though I do that all the time, right? If I have those things, I'm gonna be like, all right, that's a break. I have to think about what I'm thinking about, and I'll cut the video. And maybe he doesn't have the ability to do that, and that's fine. But it's just that it's a thing about his content basically. And then he has like a music track over it, and it's kind of high in the mix, like it's kind of loud. So when it gets to like this louder moment in the music, like it's a good mix initially because like it's a quieter part of the music. But then when the music swells, it's kind of hard to hear what he's saying because it's too loud. It's like listening to someone at like a party or like a big rave or something, and they're trying to talk to you, but they have to speak louder over the music so you can hear what they're saying. It's sort of like that. And then the music kind of just stops and he just keeps talking. And so it felt like he just kind of layered a music on top and that's it. And I'm like, okay, there are ways to kind of like find, I think the beginning part of that track that you used is great. If you found ways to neatly loop it and kind of reuse just that section, it would have been great, actually. It would have been I think that was a good backing track in and of itself. And then when it gets to the louder part, it's just kind of like, yeah, and then at the end, there's this kind of like animated section, and there's a lot of cutting ways to dialogue from the show itself, and you can hear background music as if like it was taken from the show itself, with music behind it and stuff, and kind of rammed in there. So that, I'm pretty sure, made me think that, okay, this is not like an official trailer. It seemed like an official trailer, or like something like kind of like a official. It doesn't feel like something that Geek made, personally. And then that was just based on me seeing his other content. It's like, this is a really well made piece of footage, like a trailer of sorts, kind of showing off the No Longer Human story. If you're not familiar with Aoi Bungaku, it's an anthology series. So the first 4 episodes is adapting a story called No Longer Human, and that part is like there's this like trailer of sorts, and that's mainly the focus that Geek touches on here, and talking about kind of the struggle of being a content creator, I guess, and seeing other people make art and trying to do that yourself, I guess. I really like kind of interweaving that personal narrative with admiring the show itself and kind of like the different aspects of it, I think. And I just like anyone talk about Aoi Bungaku because that's cool. the thumbnail's kind of interesting. I was like, so like I don't remember him ever talking about PewDiePie in the video. I don't know why he's in the thumbnail. It's just strange to me. But like if you see Geek Eire's other content, it's just very strange, and it's like choices that that just seem kind of like, oh, you don't really know what you're doing, but at the same time, it's out there, it's on the like usually if something like that, people don't have the confidence to actually post it or make it in the first place. You know, I feel like that's a lot of barrier a lot of people have is like they don't make videos because they, you know, they're afraid of starting out and everything and finding their footing and doing it as a learning process. You know, those first few videos aren't going to be great or whatever. But I just like that Geek is still really trying and putting himself out there. And yeah, I don't know. I respect and admire it a lot. His Novid video is especially kind of weird and bizarre and like odd. It's fascinating in that way. It's way better than irritating or boring. I can't say that about his content from what I've seen so far, to me at least, because it's just so different. It's just, but it's clearly a work in progress. There's things about it that could be improved, and he just has to get better at it. And that's fine, you know. That's great actually, because it shows, you know, there is an improvement. It's better than like you're in like kind of a rut, in kind of a dead zone area where you can't move forward and you don't know what to do basically. I think that this period that Geek's going through is interesting in general, I think. Anyway, I talked about more than I thought it would, I guess. But yeah, I did genuinely like the content he talked about with his relationship with making videos and the podcast that he has with Aoi Bongaku and No Longer Human specifically. And then the part at the end, I feel confident in saying he actually made that. I'm actually not sure, because it's possible, like, you know, you just kind of like find something on YouTube and include it in your video. There's a video I talk about later that basically does that. I'm like, you pulled that from YouTube. Like you searched One Piece AMV and you put it in your video. And then like, I guess there's nothing technically wrong with that, because you're not like, it's just filler footage basically. But it seems the way that No Longer Human, it felt like a trailer more than an AMV, but it does effectively be an AMV. It's stuck at the end of it, and it feels very divorced from the rest of it. But it feels like, I would like to credit you for doing that, but like I would be very surprised, because it seems like just a jump in where you are at making videos versus like the level of which that takes. And so like if you made it, fucking awesome. I think that's great. I think you should do more of that, because that was really compelling. But there was just something about it that made me be like, did you make that? And if you didn't make it, that's fine. That's okay. It was just like, that's just something kind of like, as someone who, you know, when you make videos and stuff, you kind of expect the person to have made it, that made what you're watching. So there's no confusion of that. There's no like, wait, did it? Wait, what? You know? And if you didn't, that's okay. It's not a big deal. And I'm sorry to challenge it in the first place, okay? It's just, this is just my honest thoughts of me seeing that and being like, that seems way too good for you to make that. Not that your stuff is bad in that way. It's just like, it's at a particular skill level that I can't, based on your other content, that I didn't know you were at that point. And if you were, then it's like, how did you, wow. That's just impressive in my way. I'm just giving my thoughts. Anyway, yeah, interesting video. A lot to talk about, I thought. It is a wholesome, quick video from vizmedia. Let's Scare Junji Ito, him reacting to internet creations, specifically like Siren Head and other such things. And I thought the coolest thing to point out with this video is just the reactions to some of these creators, like the creator of Siren Head and other such things. He's a pretty popular online creator, and Junji Ito is clearly one of his inspirations and here, you know, personal heroes. And, you know, I had seen him tweet about this, being like, tomorrow vizmedia is releasing this video of Junji Ito reacting to Siren Head and other internet creations that I submitted. And it's going to be fucking weird to see, like, your personal hero kind of react to your own creation that you were inspired by. And it lands perfect. It lands as well as you'd expect. And he tweets, like, I'm going to fall over. It's just, like, the wholesomeness of it, of, like, Junji Ito seeing Siren Head and being like, "Ah, yeah, I get that hits me right." He says it's like, "Ah, it hits me right here. That's the good shit," And like, I can't like the euphoria of like your hero like giving you that sort of credit and that sort of like compliment. I can't imagine how that feels. I vicariously feel that. And that was just kind of something I wanted to mention with this, and why I wanted to bring it up on Digest, because it's just so cathartic and emotional and like awesome. Just in general, it's so freaking cool that he was willing to do that and sort of thing. And his thoughts are always very interesting and constructive and like additive. He's not like critiquing it or anything like that. He's giving a lot of baseline general thoughts. He's relating it to his own work, where he's like, "Oh yeah, I've had a couple of stories where I deal with this theme that this art is going for." Little funny observation. It's never really scaring him. He doesn't really get scared, which is fair, which is funny. It's like, yeah, that makes sense, because he's the guy making all this stuff. Because I'd be weirded out if like he gets spooked at his own stuff, at like other people's stuff, but not his own. That would just be strange. But it's just like his reactions are always so wholesome, and seeing him in other videos too. But this was really great to see in general. Just a video I wanted to mention I really liked. I did check out the next behemoth 45. I guess Best Guy Ever really kind of lands on this 45-minute, 50-minute type of threshold. Is like that's the target area. Kingdom Hearts 3 Complete Review, Part 1, and it's sort of mostly an add-on from his previous initial thoughts of Kingdom Hearts 3, which was unscripted back when he was doing Wiagwa. Yes, Wiagwa was the acronym at the time. He doesn't do those so much anymore, but that's okay. And I didn't watch that video because I knew it. Like, if I watched that, I do not know anything about Kingdom Hearts. I've not played any of the games. I don't try to pretend to know what anything is. I know basic character names, but that's it. And so, like, watching that, I just wanted to kind of mostly watch this out of respect, because it's a big upload from a, prevalent creator in our community and stuff, and something he worked really hard on. So, giving the kind of the verbiage as it is, I try to do that. You know what I mean? My roommates very much love playing Apex Legends, if you can hear that. They're having a good time. No, but yeah, so Nate goes over Kingdom Hearts 3, and even with just not, he doesn't really go from the beginning or anything. I really like that he tackled this from the perspective of the DLC and the added content to get the full perspective, because the bulk of the stuff he's talking about in his unscripted initial review, I suppose. And this feels very much more comprehensive, and not trying to dig into this is bad, this is good aspects of as an actual review. It didn't feel like a review in that way. It actually felt more like here's the situation, fellas. As fellow Kingdom Hearts fans, this is where he's at in terms of what should we think about the lore? How should we treat it? And I really like the perspective that Nate gives here, where at this point it's very sloppy. It's very all over the place. They're expecting you to pay more money for content, for like bits of information that they very easily could have added in the initial product. They're kind of milking this idea of like spreading these breadcrumbs very thinly. So he just kind of gives up. He's just like, I'm not going to criticize or like give it any attention, because it's just not worth, they're going to find ways to contradict it later. There's no point in looking into the hidden meaning. I like this point that he made where he's like, I looked into the hidden meaning of like why these keyblades were missing keychains, like the chains at the end of it. Like, what are the implications of that? But then they retcon it and they add them back in retroactively. And it's like, well, okay, I guess I was dumb for thinking that, or for overthinking that. So he really has kind of a healthy mindset, in my opinion, of like, look, well, what is what it is. We'll engage it to the point where it wants us to engage with, but like, not gonna overthink things, not gonna, and I think he handles it really well. For someone that, again, I'm not waist deep in been a fan for years or anything. I think this is generally a healthy mindset to have. I liked a lot of his very like, he didn't feel very toxic in this video. I like that he kind of relegated a lot of it. Not relegated so much as like mitigate it. There's a lot of like very short, like, great, you know, like he's keeping his like caustic, you know, or like negativity to a minimum, I think, here. And it's like, you know, he can still be critical and giving his thoughts, but he's not being caustic or like whiny, complainy, you know what I mean? And he's keeping it to like one short little great, or you know, it's like, wow, or like a lot of backhanded, like sarcastic thing, like, wow, that's awesome, you know, or something like that. A lot of his reactions were great. His humor is fantastic, as usual, but like it seems very mitigated to that role in this video, I think. A lot of technical jargon that kind of flew over my head. That's okay. But I thought the general points were easy to follow, and I thought that the lack of a traditional structure, it didn't go into like story, characters, blah blah blah. If it did that, it could have been more cohesive, or not cohesive, comprehensive to a non-fan, or to someone who hadn't played the game or was looking at this review as someone who wants to know how it is or whatever. But this does seem more like for people who have played it and want to get his perspective on it, as someone who's thought deeply and is able to communicate his perspective in ways that some fans might not be able to. You know, that's the thing with a lot of YouTubers. That's kind of the appeal, is that like a lot of people are like, you verbalized exactly what I was thinking, or things like that, right? That's sort of a lot of work goes into that. So I could tell that Nate really takes a lot more time with the script and his thought process than he does with the video and kind of the presentation component that I think a lot of people expected from his previous content, based on his other things and things like that. Although if you look back at those other things, and I haven't done like a like really look at those sort of things, but like I remember like the kind of the first, like kind of offhandedly, I think while I was making my Gurren Lagann video a while ago at this point, when making that, I was like, I kind of resorted to looking at his video to see how he frames things, and the editing is not amazing. It's creative in places, but it wasn't like whoa, you know what I mean, in the same way that a lot of it can be today. I think it's just a lot of effort wise, it's really impressive, but like raw effort. But I think Nate has really kind of shifted it to making more effort on the script itself and polishing that. Because I think that this felt very unconventional, and the flow of these things, but was still comprehensive, and I was able to follow it as someone who has no idea, no investment or any clue. So I enjoyed that, even though it's not like my favorite or anything, because it's like I can't engage with the content in that way. Yeah, I thought it was very good. It was a good video. And I'm talking about Uniquenameosaurus is finally back. After like almost a year, I would say. Been wondering what he's up to. I don't follow him too closely, or I bothered to ask. I could ask, but I was like, yeah, you know, he's doing his thing. So the video in question: want Harry Potter animated? A better Game of Thrones or Star Wars? Here's proof ending IP won't hurt artists. And he's changed this. I think he changed this already, at least once before. So I don't doubt that the title might be different later. But this is what the title is for now. But the video is essentially his third installment in this kind of pro-piracy, but he doesn't really take the stance as much. I noticed that he's more leaning on this idea he's created, and finding ways to defend it and give things to. So I liked I linked the kind of the bigger video, but the smaller video that he releases a little bit earlier than this, beforehand, and he says this is kind of a part 2 to that video, but that video is only like 9 minutes or something. That one's very kind of a really quick knockout of like example of why patents have been harmful in these ways, or and it links to IP law and copyright, which has always been kind of the main enemy. and in these videos, and piracy is simply just kind of the answer. But I do like that Uniquenameosaurus, at least for the second video, it doesn't seem that he's really going piracy, 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 so much as he's going with this more explaining this more nuanced idea of instead of people making a product and then people pay to see that product or own that product or whatever, it's reversed. So the money is gotten crowdfunded essentially. It pretty much just crowdfunding. The money is given beforehand, and then the product is made, and there's no IP law attached to it, and then other companies can improve it or do different things with it or continue it or do anything they want with it. And there's a number of mechanical things that so basically that pre-production, basically it's kind of the art commission. Like I pay, like somebody, like if somebody commissions me to edit a video for them, like Uniquenameosaurus did with me for 2 of his videos, I make the video, then he pays me, and then I give him the video. So then it's essentially the same thing with any other creative endeavor. You make the thing first, then people pay you. No, it's like people pay you with the promise of pay, make the thing, and then they pay you once you've made the thing, sort of deal. There's definitely a lot more to it, and there's a lot more explanations and details that Uniquenameosaurus is giving you here. But it's kind of all based on he basically anchors it to putting money where his mouth is, and he creates his own media company. It's essentially announcing it here. I don't know if he really announced it in other places, but effectively here. And it's the idea of he started a webcomic, first chapter, I guess, and it's public domain. All of his videos are public domain now, as of this video, I guess. All of his videos are public domain. All of his content he makes is public domain. The streams are a little weird, but he'll figure it out later, I guess. And I guess the idea is that other people can use the webcomic, and they can make their own stuff with it, with the characters and all that. And they don't have to pay it because it's public domain. So I don't really know. He explains it, but it kind of goes over my head. As to someone like, I'm not fully on board with his ideas. I do respect the ideas. And the thing with the kind of impressive thing with this video is how many examples he's giving as success stories or counter examples to illustrate his points from not just media, but like entire world examples, like his medical, like the thing about diabetes, with insulin, with other such technical things like that. I thought those were really effective methods of kind of illustrating your point. Because like, do you know how like this happens? What if it does this? And it feels very thought out and and compelling in that way. I just think it's very. I think 2 things. It's like, it's hard to fully wrap your head around in a succinct manner. It's not like a just do this. You know what I mean? Without like a lot of like, this is why this is the sort of thing. And there's other little things here and there about it. But the other big thing for me is just like, this is a lot of it comes off to me as wishful thinking. It's like, wouldn't it be great if companies did this, and this didn't exist, this. But like, this is the reality we're living in. That is the case, and we kind of have to deal with that. You know, you can maybe make plans to like. You basically have to like prove your point by exactly what Unique is doing is making his own media company and proving that this is possible. He's essentially saying, like, you know, when he shows this visually where it's like, oh, Disney didn't do a good job at Star Wars, we can make Star Wars and we can make it better. This is assuming you can make it better. This is under the presumption you can make it better. To me, there is such a thing with like it's tough. There's a lot more new. I think it's such a big idea, and I appreciate big ideas really, but like all of the examples he's giving, it always feels like that's just one example. That's just one. What about these myriad of other caveats and other examples that you're not bringing up, where you could be proving the opposite? And I'm not going to go ahead and make that. I'm not trying to be against the video here because I think it's respectable. And I think that, you know, the amount of effort that Unique is putting in here speaks for itself. To the point to where it's effective and successful and correct, I don't know. I personally haven't been convinced in that way. But it's really awesome. It's like, I just like that he's evolving this idea, and it's not as much of pro piracy as it is like coming up with a better idea and inventing, you know, kind of like really thinking this idea through, I think. Yeah, I don't know. There's other things to it. It's a very big topic he's talking here. I think if you're interested in copyright in general, or just like IP laws and all this subject, this is really interesting stuff. I don't know how amazing, I don't know how effective because like it's always, I'm not going to try to make the whole actual counter argument here because there's no way, because I'm off the top of my head. I didn't take any notes. This is like a year of work. Of course, I'm not going to try to, I don't think I can debunk it, right? I'm not going to say that. But like in my thought, a lot of what you're discussing here is pure work. Is like the amount of work that artists do to make the art that they do, to make these motion comics, to make these animated versions of the audiobook, whatever, you know, some examples he's cited here. That all takes work, and artists need to be able to support themselves a lot. Like you really need to have a company that can funnel you enough money to support yourself to be able to make this thing. And it's like the more people get into an endeavor, like I watched Sarah Zed's video on Homestuck this past week. And it's not like AniTube, so it's like I didn't want to mention it here or whatever. But like that was great because that was an example of like a homemade thing with Homestuck, and it grew this audience. And then they did this Kickstarter for a video game, $2.5 million. And it didn't really work out, you know? I don't know if Unique really looked into how often Kickstarter projects fail because of the demand that there's a lot of work that goes into doing a release like in this format. There's very few success stories, to my knowledge. I thought there were relatively fewer success stories than there were other success. So it's like, how many of those examples are going to happen in this method that you're talking about before people are like, I don't know if this really works. You know what I mean? And it's always like the future has, you know, we don't know what's in store. For years, we thought the 6 movies of Star Wars was the only movies that were going to be made. And then they made 3 more. And it's not like these are the only movies they're going to be making. Maybe they make 3 more. Maybe they make a whole new sequel. Maybe there'll be another universe. Who knows? The future is way more you know, we have no idea. You know, I don't know. So it's just like, it always seems like in the now. I don't know if I'm making sense or anything. Yeah, I mean, I really like the amount of effort put into this in terms of the research and the examples. I learned a lot from this video in terms of certain ideas, and it's very dense. I feel like it does warrant a couple of watches. I'm just not fully on board. Like, there's certain things about it that I'm like, I don't know. There's something I'm not smart enough to really say that's ridiculous or counter anything. I'm not versed in that enough to really be like, no, you're delusional. You know, I can't quite say it, but there's something about it that I'm like, there's something off about it. Personally, I can't really say what it is, but again, congrats on the launch of the media company. That's crazy. It's a crazy awesome endeavor. Best of luck with the webcomic and other such endeavors. Looking forward to how it turns out. It'll be certainly interesting. Okay. And now what I thought were the best videos of the week. Because I was like, woo, it was great. Wow, I'm fully on that. Let's go. And please more of that. Like all of pretty much, yeah, a good deal of views. I was like, man, I wish we had more of these videos. For one thing, this one from Copenhagen Sakura Festival. I was DM'd this. Professor Mizushima from Tokai University gives a lecture on Kimetsu no Yaiba. And I will admit the kind of the technical overheat is like, the subtitles are not the most amazing timed at points, and it's over other text, so it can be hard to read. And it's not like this is the most flashy video. It's really just a guy talking over a PowerPoint. Literally. Next slide, please. Like, literally that. But the information here is really interesting. And coming from a source that's like, none of us in the West would have figured this out. So this is essentially, this is not just any Kimetsu no Yaiba lecture. This is literally giving a theory to why it got that successful. In terms of like the not global so much, specifically the Japanese domestic success of Kimetsu no Yaiba. And it kind of gives a little insight into why it might not have been as successful in the West and the rest of the world. So Professor Mizushima is basically, I guess I'll give you the gist of it. It's the idea is kind of what we thought it was, where it's a purely Japanese story, and it's tapping into a particular nerve that is very ubiquitous to Japan as a whole, to all of its demographics. It's kind of like their own history and everything that they're taught in school, I guess. Of a particular, the setting that Kimetsu no Yaiba takes place in, the Taisho era, is during World War I. It's a very pivotal, tumultuous time, and I don't claim to be an expert, but it does seem to have resulted in that sort of mindset that led them to what they did in World War II, which was very narrow-minded. You know, it is what it is. Them being Japan in World War II. And a lot of their misery, a lot of it kind of, that was a very pivotal point for them. And so a lot of it had to do with that previous era, with the Taisho, the period in which Kimetsu no Yaiba takes place. And this idea of Onis, which is not really demons in this. He actually makes the argument that Demon Slayer is not quite the best translation of Kimetsu no Yaiba, which makes sense. Because that doesn't actually, it's not it does, it's not like Oni no Hitokoro, I don't know. You know, it's Kimetsu no Yaiba, I think, translates to something different. But so that was an interesting point. But there's like giving this very specific Japanese insight, very educated, meditated, concentrated, aided, very purely Japanese perspective, which I'm personally missing in anime YouTube in general, because it's entirely West. At least my understanding of it's very Western. Yes, there's a Spanish anime YouTube and an Italian anime YouTube. I don't know anything about those spaces. Or a French anime YouTube. I've covered a couple of videos there. But like Japanese anime YouTube, I don't know too many of them. I don't know too many of them that are, never mind, that are translated into English. Right? So like, this is really valuable information, and I'm very happy it got subtitled. And the entire PowerPoint is in English as well. It does spoil the kind of the ending of Kimetsu no Yaiba, but I kind of knew about that already. I just happened to hear about it through osmosis. So I won't say it here because it's technically spoilers. But like the idea of what happens at the end of it, actually it contributes to its appeal, and as well as the aftermath of fights, where it's like right before the fight ends, the demon goes over their whole backstory. To us, that seems very cliche and rote and predictable, but it's actually really, really important for this particular story with the goals that it's trying to do. That it's communicating ideas and struggles that are relevant to literally all of Japan to this day and have been for a while. Their history and their socio-political climate it actually is really relevant. So that's why that's the theory, at least, that he presents, that why it resonates with so many people. And on an outsider perspective, I see that and it's like, that completely makes sense of why that got popular there, but it's nowhere near as popular here. I hear way more people in the West at least, be way more lukewarm to Demon Slayer than you. Not like I'm in those spaces in Japan, of course. Clearly the money talks, right? Anyway, really fascinating. If you're curious at all of why Demon Slayer is so popular in Japan, I think this is a really good explanation. I think it's really interesting. I really like this BennettTheSage video of just how many anime do I have? And it's kind of a little very casual get-together thing of him talking about some of his favorite entries in his massive collection, exactly how many of each thing he has, how many Laserdiscs, how many VHS, how many Blu-rays, how many DVDs. And the numbers are certainly interesting. I won't spoil them here. But he doesn't go over his entire collection. But I really like that it wasn't a traditional, here's my massive anime collection video. It was really like, oh, here's some little stories about these things. And also, I really like the point he made at the end where I'm not just flexing about this for the sake of it. I wouldn't have this collection I had if it wasn't for people sending me a lot of these DVD, a lot of this material to cover on this show that I've done. This video basically marks the 10th year of him making these types of videos. Congratulations. That's insane. I can't really say much else than that. Or 20. I actually don't know. Is it 10 or 20 years? I don't know. Anyway, it's a while, but it's his 250th episode coming up. I think it's about Lane. I think it's about Sphere Experiments Lane. I hope it's good. Please. But yeah, this was a really wholesome video, actually. I really like how down-to-earth he was. I liked hearing about his personal life what's happening right now, why he's cataloging all of it now, and just a lot of the stories he had. I think it was nice. And he seems a lot more of a down-to-earth and realist, really earnest and interesting guy, presented this way. I always feel like his scripts, there's this artificiality to them. It always feels like he's doing a show. You know what I mean? It's not as much as his authentic self, I guess. This felt way more authentic to me than a lot of his other videos, I guess. But it was just really great to hear all these little anecdotes and him. This means a lot to me, and I'm really excited about this thing and other aspects like that. It was like really cool to hear about. So I just really liked that video a good deal. I really enjoyed it. Yeah. There's a new channel, not really new, it's new to me. MONSTROSITIES, Tokusatsu vlog. History of Godzilla Singular Point. So this is the new Godzilla anime happening right now that nobody can really watch because it's going to be airing on Netflix. It's in Netflix jail. And I really liked this video. It was like the most comprehensive video about an anime that's airing right now that I've ever seen in terms of development to release. That's the period of time this is covering, of like how the initial concept started, how they chose the director, where they got the writer, their challenges in making it, who they he really went into the details and the research here. Hardly anyone makes videos like these. It got me way more excited about the title, for sure. It was great. I don't know why anyone hasn't really made these kinds of videos, because of like the deep dives of stuff, of like looking into the interviews and stuff. Granted, maybe not a lot of it gets translated, and that's probably why. And maybe just MONSTROSITIES just kind of knows the right places to look. And maybe some other titles just don't have that much information on public, by this point. Usually it's kind of after the fact. But I really liked how much info was able to be gleaned here, when there's only been like 2 episodes out. It's all pre-production, kind of like it's been in planning for a couple of years. And it got a lot more info here. I really liked it. It was just like a really well-made, well-crafted video, well-researched. Not really cloying or like really trying to get you to watch it or something. It was just like, let's just explore the industry and how these have been this got made and their thought process behind this, without giving too much away either. Like they said, like some spoilers were happening, but I'm like, not really. At least I didn't think so. I enjoyed it a great deal. I don't have too much else to say about it other than that. I think it's just a really well-made industry video, and I don't know why more videos like this don't get made for anime that are coming out now. Like OdaQuest has probably made an occasional video like this. Canapo's probably made something like this before or something. But like knowing the amount of info that's on like Sakuga blog, right? Then they're talking about like the anime to really watch out for. Videos like that, like if there was a video format of some of those things that they've written about, man, that'd be fantastic. And would probably get way more traction overall than just like a blog and Twitter and stuff. Well, I guess they're just kind of catering to their audience, so fair enough, I guess. I really liked this video, though. I wish there was more of it. I was recommended this several times and did see it, and I was already happened to be subbed to this guy, too. So, like, I wasn't missing this, I swear, guys. 2.5-hour video on Getter complete retrospective on the Getter and the legacy of Ken Ishikawa from Mrcheese. What a coincidence! One of my patrons is a big Getter fan. So this was fantastic. Seeing a even longer video than mine about one of the 5 things that I covered, and it was very beat for beat of like, here's like the how Getter started. Here's the first series in the anime. Here's the second series in the anime. Here's the stuff that Ken Ishikawa worked on during the absence of the original series and Go. How Go started, covered a lot of the stuff. And yeah, it's as thorough as you can possibly want. He covers basically everything. The only things he can't cover was the things he physically couldn't get his hands on. Like there are some things that like he couldn't even like find scans of or find it published anywhere. So you really felt like he actually did cover everything, regardless if it's gotten a translation or not. Like he did watch all of Getter Go, which is really impressive to me because that show is not subtitled. Some of it is, not all of it is. And other things like that. Yeah, this was very thorough. I noticed that he seemed to talk in a lot of great detail about the original manga and the TV series. And as the video went on, and you can see with the time codes, it gets shorter and shorter. Not like it does still warble a bit. But it did seem like there's parts where like he didn't have too much to say about this particular entry, so he only said as much as he was able to. And other times where he really gave some of these entries like Armageddon and Go the real the time to elaborate and to breathe, basically. The information was really valuable and interesting. I actually had I somehow didn't really make the connection that Arc ended because of the magazine canceling, not because he died. It was just, it actually like he wrote the final chapter, he wrote the chapter, and the magazine stopped, was canceled. So he was like, I'll get back to it at some point, and he just never did. It was like 3 years, and like 3 years later he died. And yeah, he really covers everything with Ken Ishikawa. I really liked that it showed me like footage and photos I had never even seen of the guy, which I was kicking my own butt. I was like, man, why couldn't I? Damn, I could barely. I would have loved to include more of that in my video, but damn. I was just happy that I don't think much of my video seemed to contradict anything in this video, because it does seem way more researched into this particular property than my video, for sure. I think mine is a good entry point if you had never heard of the franchise, but I think this is I think you would appreciate this more if you are a Getter fan. And there's, because he does talk about the manga that Ken Ishikawa wrote that wasn't Getter. He literally goes over the guy's entire bibliography, which was really awesome and impressive and interesting. And I really liked him talking about the anime for those as well, and being honest with those. Not sugarcoating it. It didn't feel like he was just sucking off anything's dick. Not even Go. Like he says, like, I'm gonna suck this series dick dry. It didn't even feel like that. I was surprised that he didn't go super hard on the way that he could have. I think in terms of like spoiling it and doing like, he doesn't really dwell that long on Musashi's death, or or things like that like I just kind of took as like, yeah, obviously you're going to talk right about specifically that, you know. I like the focus on very evenly across the whole franchise, and it wasn't like leaning on more or less important things in general. The editing is good, especially the manga. I think you could tell that he realizes the manga is kind of the coolest the coolest part of this franchise. So there's a lot of really nice manga motion movements. I don't know if that's really not like Puppet Tool, nothing that crazy, but it's sort of those things where it's, you know, separating the PNGs, cleaning them up, cutting them out, moving the thing. It's like, yeah, I get you. That's pretty cool. I didn't do that as much with my video because I knew if I spent that sort of time, I would never get done. You know, I'd take even longer. He says he took this took him a year to make. So I think you can tell, not simply from the editing as much as from the sheer amount of effort in the research and consuming all of the media possible, talking about the video game, talking about all of the untranslated stuff, talking about all of the spin-offs, being very comprehensive with everything after with Get a Robo. The only thing he didn't talk about as much that he could have was Arc, the anime, because it hasn't come out yet. I was like, to me, it's like, if you worked a year on this thing and you have this anime coming up, I personally would have waited. I know it's like, oh man, you could have polished some stuff more. Not like some stuff was like, oh, that was rough or whatever. Nothing that like felt like that personally to me. But like, I would have waited. Are you kidding me, dude? This is like huge, because you're right. It was the first TV anime since Go from the 90s that Get a Robo is on TV. And it's the original director from Armageddon and not Imagawa, but Nobuo or something. You know, he directed the previous OVAs. He's back. Jam Project's back. It's Arc. You know what I mean? I think he really sold me on the excitement, because I was not sold. Not because of the CG, but because like literally no other anime has remotely adapted the manga. So it's like, to me, why would I expect this to actually adapt Arc? Like, I get I think he laid out kind of the idea where it's like the miracle that is Armageddon, where where Imagawa had 3 episodes and it was doing this crazy shit, and then he tosses the script out and they have to like figure something new out. And the miracle that it still came out really good in spite of that setback. I think it's the same logic he's applying here, where he's like, it doesn't really matter that it's not adapting the manga. The fact that it's just more Get a Robo and it's in the hands of people that he trusts, and it could be an original story, but like they seem to be actually being faithful to Ishikawa with the designs, particularly. That's really mostly what he cares about. It's okay if it's an original. It's an original story. It doesn't need to be an adaptation. I wish it was, so that's why I'm kind of like, you know. But you know, we'll see. So I kind of would have waited, so that way, with that, it would have actually been as comprehensive as possible, instead of like there's this thing coming out sort of deal. It was only a couple of months. It was literally like 3 months before the series started. I would have waited. That's my only thing about this video. Not like it's a fault on the video at all. That's just like a personal preference to me. But yeah, it's hella impressive. It's hella thorough. If my video got you interested on a surface level with Get a Robo, I think this one is worth watching. But it's like, I would actually just read the manga now. Just read the Get a Robo saga and then check this series out, I think, because this video out. Because it really does a good job selling you on. I actually did not know that that Get a Robo G, the original old 1975 anime, in his opinion at least, is better than the original anime because of this and this reason. I think he sells it really well. That's an opinion I had not heard of before, and it makes me actually want to check out G rather than the original. Not like I wouldn't check out I would probably watch both. But it really got me to actually care. Was like, wow. because yeah, like I had seen like kind of the stuff for and I had read the saga for my Gurren Lagann video, but I wasn't as completely thorough and everything because I knew it would not be feasible for me to get this video out on time, and also because if I was going to do that for Getter Robo, I would have to do that for Tomino too, right? And for Gynax, and for and it would just be too much. The video would never get done. So it's like I would want the video out, So it's like I get the stuff that's like important, that I should actually be able to speak upon. But I'm very happy that this does the job. Basically, it is kind of the definitive Getter Robo video. I'm very happy it's out there. I'm happy with its length. I'm happy with its success. Yeah, great video. Very excellent. But I liked it a lot. This video though made me very happy. It was just so impressive, and because it's tackling a misconception. It's really trying to push against an idea, trying to change things. It's success. It's got 1 million views already. It's popping off. It was like trending when I watched it initially. I caught it on the timeline, and I hope more people see this. Smoother animation does not equal better animation. 4K 60 FPS from Noodle. This guy I looked at his channel, and he started with Game Grumps animations, and I could kind of tell with this video, man, he really gets inspiration from Egoraptor. Like, this really felt like an Egoraptor video. The way that the arguments are framed, the jokes, the delivery, like, so much of it felt like an Egoraptor video. And I take that as a positive. Some people don't like that. Some people don't like Egoraptor. That's fine. But maybe you'll like this video because he's making an incredibly great point, talking about animation and, this frame interpolation, this AI thing that people have been doing. And he does bring up anime specifically as well, so it does count. But he's doing this about animation in general. People were doing this with Mulan, and the real thing is, like, look at the success, and like the dislike ratio is not that bad. People do actually think this is better, and this is a very strong misconception. And he's really going to town against this idea, which is great because you see other people being like quote tweeting it and putting in the replies that this is shitty or whatever. Never does any real damage, to this idea because it's not good. It does go against the artist intent, but even beyond that ethical thing, it just looks like crap. And he actually really sells that idea with humor. I love the perfect lip sync through the whole video. Like, the amount of effort put into this is impressive. The examples used, the humor here, it's fantastic. I can't think of a better video. It's also not that long. It's like 15 minutes, right? It doesn't feel like an investment or anything like that. Not overstaying its welcome. Nothing against big videos because I can't really judge big videos, right? But really, I can't believe how good this video is. That's why I do put it over, even though it's, I think, our sphere, the Getter video is kind of like the bigger deal, I guess, kind of the bigger splash. Even though there's another video that was circulating a lot this week, didn't come out this week, and I never actually covered it. Sorry. Of course. Oh well. Certain video that came out by a certain YouTuber. The isekai video with neuralities. Anyway, Noodles is amazing. Please watch it. I'm gonna go rewatch it right now because my God, it is one of the best videos I've watched this year. And it's tangentially related to anime because it does happen a lot in anime specifically. Man, it's great. It's very informative. It's very funny. It's packed. It's got a lot of great effort, a lot of great information. It's the kind of YouTube video you fucking want. Hell fucking yes. Yes! And that'll do it for this installment of AniTube Digest. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you to my patrons, including Austin, Boo, Kuiper, MyAnimePod, Najbeb, Nicholas, Saxon, Uniquenameosaurus, Victor, and Yellow Cheese. You guys are great. You have a great week. Yo, peace.